Ukraine war would raise food costs globally. The rise in regional and worldwide food prices would be catastrophic if the United States and NATO sparked a conflict between Ukraine and Russia, which would be exacerbated by the resulting economic turmoil. Ukraine, long regarded as Europe's breadbasket, is anticipated to be the world's third biggest maize exporter and fourth largest wheat exporter for the 2021-2022 harvest year. The 40 million-strong ex-Soviet nation also exports barley, sunflower oil, and rapeseed. When it comes to wheat exports, Russia leads the pack, with an estimated 36.5 million metric tons exported in the harvest year 2021-2022. Food prices throughout the world would be severely affected by any of the crippling sanctions that the Biden administration threatens Russia with. Since 2008, global food costs have climbed at the greatest rate since the United Nations Food Price Index was first published in early January. Abdolreza Abbassian, a senior economist at the United Nations, says that food prices tend to stabilize once supply increases to keep up with demand. In 2022, however, such an event is quite improbable. It's hard to be optimistic about stable market conditions even in 2022 because of things like high prices for basic goods, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic around the world. The nations of Africa and Asia, such as Afghanistan, Sudan, Yemen, Libya, Lebanon, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Bangladesh, stand to lose the most if Ukrainian shipments are disrupted. A significant proportion of Ukrainian wheat is imported by all of these nations, many of which are already deemed food insecure. Political instability in Yemen, Libya and Afghanistan is a direct outcome of US imperialism's illegal interventions and wars, which have exacerbated these countries' crises. Poorer countries in Africa and Asia would bear the brunt of a jump in food prices induced by a US-instigated conflict in Ukraine, but developed nations in Europe and North America would also be hit hard. Conservative MP Tobias Ellwood urged British customers to expect a rise in food costs. In 2022, Ukrainians should anticipate a 10 to 20% increase in the cost of essential food, according to the government of President Volodymyr Zelensky. In Russia, food costs have also gone up, gaining 7.7% last year. Sugar and sunflower oil prices were capped by Russia's government in December in response to the economic crisis. Wheat and grain export levies were also imposed by the Kremlin in an effort to stifle foreign sales. As inflation continues to rise, employees in both nations are obliged to spend even more of their income on food than those in Europe and North America, who are also dealing with the same issue. Most Russians and most Ukrainians spend more than half of their money on food each month, and this is true for most people. The COVID-19 epidemic continues to infect and kill tens of thousands of Russians and Ukrainians even as food prices climb in both nations. To beat its own prior record established a day earlier, Ukraine's health ministry announced a record-breaking high of 37,351 new illnesses on January 29. The death toll in the nation has now topped 100,000, with the announcement of an additional 149 fatalities. As many as 700 to 800 people died per day in November. The Zelensky government provided a $37 cash reward for immunization instead of pursuing any meaningful preventative measures. The Omicron version is still causing a case rate explosion in our neighboring country of Russia. Opposition to a war in Ukraine remains strong in both Russia and the United States, despite capitalist governments' efforts to prepare for Europe's largest military conflict since World War II ended on September 11, 1945. Polls in Ukraine reveal that increasing food and energy prices, as well as the COVID-19 epidemic, are the main causes of concern for Ukrainians, rather than the possibility of conflict with Russia. Despite the warmongering mania pushed by the Biden administration, fewer than half of Ukrainians anticipate a war would occur, according to a December 2021 rating survey. A damning indictment of capitalism as a whole is the fact that the Biden administration and NATO are pressing forward with war against Russia despite widespread opposition from the working class and growing concerns about inflation and the spread of the pandemic.